In these grim times of coronavirus pandemic, the only sector which has shown some hope, some green shoots is actually the agriculture sector. While India's economy saw a contraction of 23.9% in the first quarter of the current financial year, farm sector in fact brought some hope by becoming the only sector to show a positive growth, and agriculture sector in the country recorded a growth of about 3.4%. Now, is that due to a good monsoon this year, or because of the policies of the NDA government? What do the new farm bills mean for the agriculture sector in the country? That's what we are going to discuss over the next half an hour on India Revival Mission on Times Network this week. I am Hina Gambhir, and joining me on the broadcast is Ramesh Chand, who is member Agriculture Niti Aayog. We have with us Professor J.P. Sharma, Vice Chancellor of Sher-e-Kashmir University of Agricultural Sciences and Technology from Jammu, Vijay Sardana, who is an agriculture economist. We have with us Professor Arun Kumar, who is a well-known economist, and Avik Saha, Organizing Secretary, All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us here on this special broadcast. Professor Arun Kumar, let me begin this discussion with you. What do you make of the growth that we've seen in the agriculture sector and the new farm bills, revolutionary or anti-farmers?
So, the picture of growth in agriculture has been rather mixed, because what happened when the lockdown was imposed was that in the Azadpur Mandi, less than half of the vegetables and fruits were coming. So a lot of it was rotting in the field, and also the milk production, the poultry production, the chicken, eggs, they all suffered because, the closure of hotels, restaurants, mithai shops, etc. So, the data, when I looked at the government document, it suggests that actually agriculture sector growth is not fully captured. So I think the agriculture sector also has a mixed performance in spite of the good Rabi crop. Now, coming to the second question regarding the bill suggests that farmers will have greater choice, and also that free markets will be created which will help the farmers. Now, the trouble is that the farmers really don't have a choice very much, because the farmers are tied to credit markets, produce markets, and to the land market, So it's not as if that only if you relax the produce market that things will be all right and farmers will begin to have a choice. 86% of the farmers are so tiny that they really don't exercise much of a choice. And even though MSP doesn't benefit everybody, but MSP gives you some kind of a benchmark price on which the traders operate. And in agriculture, what happens is that it's demand and supply linked pricing as compared to industry where it's markup pricing. So agriculture is always at a discount, and that's why the surplus from agriculture drains out into the other sectors. And that's the reason why we have so much poverty in agriculture over such a long period of time. So whatever the government has tried, unless we give higher income support to the farmers, unless we give remunerative prices to the farmers, their situation is not going to improve. And by simply giving greater power to the corporate sector to procure wherever they want to, it's not going to help the farmers, in the long run. So, my problem is that where the free markets don't exist, where choice for farmers don't exist, we are talking about free markets and we are talking about choice for the farmers. Both of these are not going to happen. So I think the farmers will remain in trouble.
Okay. Avik Saha, where do you stand?
I have tried to look at the problem a little more simply at the ground level. Everybody agrees on these things. One, food is a non-negotiable requirement. Two, only farmers grow food. Three, if farmers do not get firstly remunerated and going forward profitable prices, they will not be interested in farming. They will move out of farming. Four, one of the ways to benchmark a remunerative price for a farmer is MSP. I agree with Professor that MSP is received by a very small section of farmers, but it forms a benchmark. And the new legislation is not moving away from it. The government still agrees that it is MSP which has to be at least given to the farmers. The problem, the debate the diversion happens on how to give MSP to the farmers. As the government is proposing through the legislation, expansion of the market, presumably which will lead to more players coming in. And therefore, there will be competition between buyers of agri-produce and the price will rise. This is the fundamental principle. The problem is, this is not exactly how it is likely to pan out. So the farmers' organizations have said, you legislate MSP as a base right. If you are legislating so many things, legislate that as a base right and ensure that the farmers get that base. And then you free whatever market you want to. If that happens, then we can talk afresh. But unless that happens, unless MSP is a basic right and procurement and smart intervention by the government happens, all of this is part of the NDA government's package of measures. So none of this has been implemented, and suddenly all thought on increasing the income and remunerative price of farmers is replaced by this brand new legislation, and again presenting it as a silver bullet. That's where the problem is. Fundamentally, there needs to be more engagement and a greater back and forth between the farmers and the government before we arrive at a conclusion, at some kind of consensus. That is not happening. That is another major issue.
Okay, more engagement is the need of the hour. Clarity on MSP is the need of the hour. That's your view, Avik Saha. Professor J.P. Sharma, how would you like to address some of the concerns raised by Mr. Avik Saha?
I consider this bill. I am listening to many speakers, seeing the social media reactions, and also consulted many farmers at different places. To my mind, this bill is reformatory in nature in terms of it will increase the income of the farmers. It will also lead to creating more job opportunities, employment opportunities in agriculture sector, and also lead to infrastructure development. Now, the first thing, the major confusion or apprehension of different stakeholders is MSP. So I think that MSP, APMC is going to stay in whatever they are offering, it is additional and optional. So if they are not satisfied outside, they can again go to MSP. And also mentioned that there will be competition. When there are more buyers, there is a competition and the farmer is going to get more price, what I consider. So there is no such worry. And when we talk of that, we are also talking about the agreement of the farmers with the companies or private sector, contract farming. It is again optional, and it is I see it in the favor of the farmers, that farmer is knowing whatever crop he or she is going to grow, pre-price is already fixed. That is to be paid to him or her, and additional price, if the price increases, one is going to get share in the additional price. Ultimately, this kind of arrangement will help the small and marginal farmer, which is 85% in our country, for diversification, value addition, processing, which will ultimately attract foreign direct investment, private investment, help in developing cold chain, and also reducing the vast losses which are occurring after post-harvest. I want to tell you that 15 to 20% of our produce is wasted after harvesting. And every year, increase in the production is only 3%. So this value, 15 to 20%, is more than 1 lakh crore. So but individual farmer, a small farmer cannot go for processing and value addition. But if some entrepreneur or industry is involved, so a small farmer can take risk of growing value-added product.
I believe that these reforms will actually help the farmers. These are the much-needed reforms in the agriculture sector. Before I go across to my other guests, I want Professor Arun Kumar to quickly respond to what Professor J.P. Sharma has said, because Professor Arun Kumar, you had mentioned that higher income support is the need of the hour. But here we have someone who is in Jammu right now, who understands the situation on the ground, who seems to suggest that this is actually going to help them boost their income, something that was not happening with the current set of measures. What will you say, sir?
When we say market, operates on money power. Those who have higher money power are able to extract more. So why is it that the traders dominated over the farmers? Because traders were the ones who lent money for production, they lent money for other things, as Sushma Swaraj said in Parliament 2012, that, for the marriage and for everything, loans are given. So, those who have money power, they're able to control the produce, they're able to control the price. Now, when you give higher market power to the bigger entities, the corporate sector which comes in, they're also going to be profit-motivated entities. They're not going to charge less. They're not going to the traders will be aggregators for them, because the big companies would not like to, deal with the small farmers.
Okay.
And as long as they're aggregators, you will have the margins both of the traders as well as of the big companies, and we have seen that, APMC, etc., have been diluted in Bihar. Has that led to any improvement in Bihar? Money power is what matters. As long as money power matters, big entities are not going to give more income. In fact, they're going to probably, through contract farming, etc., a lot of small farmers are going to probably be dispossessed of their land over a period of time.
Okay.
And therefore, in a sense, the small farmers, the marginal farmers, they're going to suffer.
Small farmers, marginal farmers are going to suffer. That's the view of Professor Arun Kumar. Mr. Ramesh Chand, you heard the concerns of the people here on the show. How will you like to address those? Because, 86% of the farmers in our country have a land of the size of less than 2 hectares today. And there are many who feel that these new bills are actually going to severely impact those farmers. Eventually, they will be left at the mercy of big corporate houses.
No, I completely disagree with Professor Arun Kumar. His opposition is primarily ideological. It is not rooted in the ground. If we look at the evidence, there are hundreds of contract farming going on in this country. There is not even a single case, even an inch of farmers' land has been taken by corporate, or some ill treatment has been given by corporate to the small farmer or marginal farmer. In fact, when these new laws were framed, the target was how we empower small and marginal farmers to earn more income, rather than keeping our farmer permanently dependent on government duties that you give us support, you give us income support. We want to make them capable to generate income at their own path. Let me give one example to Professor Arun Kumar, which is from North India. Nestle is the biggest corporate in dairy sector. Somebody should visit villages in Mocha district of Punjab and talk to farmers. From last at least 2 decades, they are selling their milk to Nestle. Whether they find better treatment, better price by selling milk to Nestle, or they get better price through some other means. Similarly, I can give several examples. The biggest problem of small and marginal farmer is the scale disadvantage for bargaining power. A small farmer producing 2 kg milk can sell it, but a small farmer producing 50 kg vegetable, if he can travel 10 kilometers, even in the market, they may not entertain his money. So if under new arrangement, you have a contract, good price assurance, which include service contract, depending on what is initially agreed, you will see that small farmer in some cases will individually deal. In other cases, they will organize themselves. They will create some sort of FPO. And we have so many, even from state of Bihar, how the farmer joined hands under Jivika, and today income per hectare of Bihar farmers is higher than what is the income per hectare in Punjab. Just what I am saying is very, very important, because
Yes.
Bihar example was given by Professor Arun Kumar, that in Bihar there is no MSP, no procurement. Look at condition of farmer after APMC Act. I will say you look at the prices which Bihar farmer was getting even before scrapping of MSP in 2006.
Okay.
So condition was still very, very bad. And also different states, they have different context, different kind of governance structure, experience varies. Green Revolution did not come to Bihar for 40 years after Punjab had Green Revolution. That doesn't mean Green Revolution was wrong. So I think we should look at the real intent of these acts and the way they have been framed, and subsequently the initiative with which government has come, 10,000 FPO to be created, then infrastructure and financial support to be given to startup, to integrator. So we want that small and marginal farmer, rather than a remaining producer, they should become, some of them should become even business persons,
Okay,
either
that's
on
very
their
interesting.
own or through some FPO.
The intent probably, Vijay Sardana, is to make the farmer the annadata of this country, Atmanirbhar, and not be dependent upon the government throughout his life for be it MSP or other kind of facilities. He should be able to reach out to the private players, big corporate houses, and be able to sell his produce wherever he wants to. But then, on the ground, how will you explain this to the farmers? Don't you think perhaps a mechanism is needed to also educate the farming community of the benefits of these bills, and how is it actually going to help them change their life?
Madam, very important issue you have raised. From last 30 years, what was the demand of farmers? Think about it. Why Congress party and BJP both had in their election manifesto that we will remove APMC and give you more liberation in the marketing? Because there was a farmer's demand. No political party will create a manifesto to get a votes of farmer by putting things which are illogical to farmers. Because there was a demand of farmer. These are evidences, number one. Number two, I pay 50 rupees for the crop in Delhi. Farmer gets 2 to 3 rupees in the village. Who pockets 45 rupees per kg on which there is no GST, there is no receipt, there is no accountability, no trade union, no political party ever protested that why farmers are getting 3 rupees when consumers are paying 50 rupees in Delhi. Show me one agitation and protest by so-called well-wishers of farmers. Come back to third. They are talking about MSP. MSP will always remain as long as this country will have poverty. Reason is very simple. Because Government of India, as per Food Security Act, as per directives of Supreme Court, have to provide subsidized food to the poor people. Government has to buy crop from the farmers. At what price government will buy? Government has to declare MSP to buy the crop from the farmer. So as long as poverty is there in this country, government has to meet the legal obligations. They will continue to announce MSP and they have continue to buy food for food security programs. Coming back to third, MSP should be mandatory. I was a businessman. Let me put it a very simple thing to you. I wanted to pay premium to farmer for quality if they deliver to my factory. I announced it openly in public in every village. You come directly to me, I will give you 250 rupees per ton extra over mandi rate. Mandis never allowed me to do this. They never wanted I should even talk to farmers. Today, FCI's handling cost is 5,000 rupees per ton. This is public money which is going wasted and pocketed by middlemen in the name of handling charges. Why Punjab has 8.5% mandi tax if they are efficient? Who is pocketing 8.5% tax on commodities? Please answer these questions.
Well, yes,
Coming back to farmer, let me add up one last point, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
If Today we are producing 700 million tons plus food items in this country by the farmers. You are saying government should buy. It will take 100% plus budget, 21 lakh crore of Government of India budget just to buy even average price of 30 rupees. Country will become bankrupt. People don't know what they are talking. They do not give their numbers. They do not give the logic. They simply want to do politics because neither they read the law nor they allow farmer to read the law. Instead of explaining the law verbatim, they create their own political interferences and inferences so that their politics continues. The only loss because of freedom is
so are
that
the protests
farmers
happening
will
because
not give
certain
them
political
pocket
parties
money.
only want to do politics over this? I want Avik Saha to respond to the questions that are raised by Vijay Sardana. Avik Saha, we know that these bills aim to eradicate this system of middlemen, and they want to connect farmers to the corporate houses, to the places where they can sell directly. So we know that states also earn tax revenue, and they also set to lose tax revenue if mandi system is gone. Do you think that's the reason for politics we are seeing these kind of protests and misinformation is now being spread over this issue?
Most farmers' movements are non-political. In Punjab especially, if a political party comes and joins the farmers' movement, they are shurus. I think the gentleman does not have his facts correct. Number two, the central government has been formed by a political party, and they have brought out a policy legislation which is part of their politics. I cannot understand why other political parties are barred from bringing out their political position on this issue. Is the central government some kind of a monastery that does not practice politics? What is this continuous halla and shouting about politics must karo, politics must karo? How else do you run a democracy without politics? I want to ask a very important question. From 2016, this government has announced that by 2022, the farmers' income will be doubled. When they announced that, they must have had certain ideas in mind. They must have had certain plans in mind. Committees have been formed. Mr. Ramesh Chand is in this panel today. Can anyone in the government tell us that between 2016 and 2020, 4 out of 5 years have passed, exactly what percentage of income of the farmer
Let
has
Mr.
increased?
Ramesh Chand respond. You've asked a very specific question. Mr. Ramesh Chand.
Thank you, Hina. After PM gave this clarion call for doubling farmer income, Niti Aayog prepared a model how this is doable and how this can be done. If you look at that, we identified several factors, but the most important factor identified there was enable farmer to get better prices through competition.
Okay.
We also gave example of Karnataka model when they started electronic auction kind of things, and we just demonstrated if farmer is able to get 10% better prices, his income will increase by as much as 17%. So no other source, whether it is increase in yield, whether it is irrigation, give that much improvement in income as the price received by farmers give. And to get these better prices, we have to get better market. We have to get better competition.
So you believe
this
that
was
these
also
kind of
exactly
reforms
that.
are the need of the hour to make the farmer the annadata of this country, Atmanirbhar. They were long pending, and now of course the focus is going to be on how these are implemented, because politics or no politics, these bills have now been passed by both houses of the parliament, and now it will be upon the centre to ensure that they are implemented as well with the same spirit as they were created. Thank you very much, all of you gentlemen, for joining us here on India Revival Mission.